Hello, how's everyone doing? This lesson is going to be how to build a virtual machine using VMware and how to reset your root password within VMware if for whatever reason you need to reset the password. In the description below this video are going to be timestamps of the individual topics that are going to be covered in this particular lesson. First part that we're going to cover is how to create or build a virtual machine within VMware. Once you log into VMware to the specific server that you were instructed to using your provided credentials, you will come to create/register a virtual machine. You will want to select create a new virtual machine, click next. The name of the virtual machine is going to be your first dot last name. It will be ESXi 6.5. The guest OS family will be Linux. And in this particular case, the guest OS version is going to be CentOS 6 64-bit. Make sure it's 64-bit, not 32-bit. You will select next. The data store is automatically selected for you. You will select next. On the customize settings section, your CPU will be 1 core. Your memory will be 1 gigabyte, which is 1024 megabytes. The hard disk will be 12 gigabytes. Next to the hard disk, you want to select a drop-down option, and you want to make sure that the hard disk is then provisioned. You will then scroll down to the CD/DVD drive, select host device, and you would change that to data ISO file or data ISO file. When the next window pops up, you will make sure the SV103 is selected. You will scroll through the list here, looking for ISO, select ISO, and you would choose the operating system for your virtual machine. In this case, the operating system you're going to choose is CentOS 6.10 x86 64-bit. You would hit select there. Now that you've configured your virtual machine, you will hit next. The last page is just a summary of the selections that you've made. You will select finish. You essentially just built a virtual machine. You now have to install the operating system into that virtual machine. So again, while you're logged into VMware and you have virtual machine selected, you will scroll through the list to find the virtual machine you have created. In this case, I created first.last. I will select the virtual machine and select the power on option. Once the power on option is selected and the virtual machine boots up, I will then go to console and open console in browser. You can choose to open in a new window, open console in a new tab. If you have the VMRC download, you can install that onto your machine where you can launch via the remote console. So I'm just going to choose open console in browser. Within the browser, you do not have control of your system using a mouse. So I'm not going to choose the console in browser. I'm actually going to close this out, and I have downloaded the VMRC. If you need that file, you can contact me and I can send you the file. So I'm going to launch using the remote console because I just want to make this easier and use my mouse. Just know that if you open the browser console, you're going to have to use your arrow keys and tab button to navigate and enter and spacebar to select. And now that the VMRC is turned on, I am going to use my arrow keys to select. Well, I'm going to capture my mouse inside the virtual machine. Use the arrow keys to select or upgrade the existing system. Hit enter, and from here on forth, I should be able to use my mouse to complete the operation system install. Move over to select skipped. Hit enter. Move on down to select next. I'm going to choose the English language and the US English keyboard. I'm going to select basic storage devices. And at the storage device warning window, I am going to choose yes, discard any data. The host name for the VM is going to be the same as the name of the virtual machine, which is your first dot last name. Here I'm going to select configure network. Note, if you're using a console, you're going to have to use the tab key and the arrow keys to move around. So you want to select system etho. So you can use tab till you get to wired and use the down arrow to select system etho. Then you want to edit the system etho. Select the box that says connect automatically. Select IPv4 settings, and for the method, I'm going to choose manual. I am going to choose add, and on the address, this is where you will enter the IP address that was assigned to you. In this case, I am going to use this IP address. The net mask is going to be 255.255.0.0, and the gateway will be 10.1.10.1. The net mask and the gateway will always be the same. So here you want to hit escape. So you are out of the addresses box. Move on down to DNS servers. The DNS server IP address is 10.1.10.252. And the search domain is going to be mtsclass.com. Select apply. And close this box and then select next. I am on the East Coast, so I'm going to choose America, New York. You choose a time zone that suits your location. The root password, we are going to break the root password in the second portion of this video. So the root password is going to be simple. I'm just going to call it test 123, test 123. And when I choose next, I'm prompted it's a weak password. I'm going to use it anyway. I'm going to replace the existing Linux systems. Choose next. And on the writing storage configuration to disk, I'm going to select write changes to disk. On the next window, I'm going to choose desktop and leave everything else as it is. CentOS and customize later, and choose next. And this is the process it's going to go through to install the operating system. This can take anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes, maybe longer, but due to the magic of editing, it's going to take us about 5 seconds to get through this entire process. And when the installation is finished, it will automatically bring you back to a reboot screen, and you just have to select reboot if it's not automatically selected, and you reboot the server. All right, now that the reboot is completed, next step is to go through this welcome section. You just want to select forward. You want to agree to the licensing agreement. You want to enter a username of the local user for the virtual machine. So that user will be your first dot last name for the username and your full name. And your password is going to be a LDAP password. And select forward. You don't need to synchronize the date and time. You can leave it as what it is. And select forward, insufficient memory. You just select OK, and you select finish. Now your system is going to boot up into your login screen. So here you can log in as either yourself, the local user you created, or you can log in as the root user. You select other and put the username root and put the password that you created for root as you were building the virtual machine. You log in. You can choose not to show this warning again. It's entirely up to you. See that you're logged in as root here. And the terminal application is going to be under applications, system tools, terminal. I just drag it onto the desktop. And here it is. The virtual machine is now created, and you can access it through VMware or through a terminal of your choice. So next we are going to go over how to reset the root password. And I'm going to use the console for that one. So I'm just going to log out. And I am going to start from here. So in order to reset the root password, you have to access the machine in a booting up state. That can be done by, if the machine is powered on, you just need to reset it, or if it's turned off, you can just power it on. So if most of you will use the browser console. So what you want to do is make sure that the console is closed. And if the reset option doesn't work because your console doesn't open up fast enough, just power off the machine and power it back on. So we're going to try to reset first. So while the console is closed, I'm going to reset the virtual machine. As it goes through the reset process, I'm going to open up a browser console. And that quick, you have to click inside of the browser console and hit the space bar. That is how you capture. That's how you pause or stop the boot up process, and you're brought to this section here. Again, to go over those steps, with the browser console closed, reset the virtual machine, and while it's going through the reset process, open the console. You'll see a countdown timer. You have about 3 seconds. When you see the timer, select inside the window, the browser console, click in there with your mouse, hit the space bar as fast as possible. It will pause the boot up process and bring you to this window. From this window, this is your Linux kernel. You want to select E for edit. And if you read the bottom part, it says use up and down arrow, so select which entry is highlighted. Press enter to boot the selected OS, or E to edit the command before booting. So we want to edit your kernel or your operating system. Select E. Then you want to come down to the kernel, and you also want to edit this. You want to edit this kernel. Select E. It's going to bring you to the minimal bash command line. Here you want to enter single user mode, and you enter single user mode by just hitting space and 1. 1 represents single user mode. You hit enter, then it brings you back to the kernel. You want to boot the kernel now. Now you want to select B to boot the kernel. And now when you boot the kernel, it's going to bring up a command line. There's going to be no graphical user interface as before. You are now accessing your virtual machine in single user mode, which means you are accessing the machine as root and you have root privileges. So from here, you want to change the root password. So you want to enter the password command. So, which is PASSWD. You don't need to enter the username because can only be done for root at this point. It's going to say change the password for root user. Here is where you enter your new password. You can choose whatever you want the password to be. Type it in once, you hit enter. Type it in again. I'm getting a prompt for a bad password because it's too simplistic, but that doesn't mean you can't use it. You hit enter. Then it said password, all authentication tokens has been updated successfully. So here's where you want to reboot the machine again. And I will just use the init 6 command to reboot the machine. The machine is going to reboot and it's going to go through its normal boot up process. And now we are back to our login screen. I can either log in as my local user or my root user. Nope. Like other, username, root. And now we'll enter my new password, which is not test123 anymore. And select login. And there you go. That is how you break the root password. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know.